Welcome to the Enlightened Voices podcast. I'm so thankful for all the men and women coming and looking to cultivate healthy personal and professional relationships. Here we transform our mind and life together. Today, we have the president of the Rising Men Alliance, author, speaker, philanthropist, Will Baptiste. Okay, I was introduced to him on the OWL app, actually from a friend who I also met on the OWL app named DeMarcus. He was nominated, his podcast was nominated at an award ceremony that Will was hosting. So I would like to turn it over to you, Will, to give yourself your proper flowers.
All right, all right. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much for having me today. As you mentioned, I am a coach. My company is called Will to Rise, and also I'm the president and founder of Rising Men Alliance. I've been doing this for a number of years now, and I noticed that there were a lot of men that needed some help, just like myself. That I found myself really in a position where I needed the help, and I had the courage and I had the will to ask for the help. And I realized it was a problem because most men were not asking for help. And I said, how can I help men on a much larger scale? And that's when I decided to start my own nonprofit, which is Rising Men Alliance, to really help men all across the spectrum, or all over the world. And the best way to do that a lot of time is through a nonprofit, because people seem to gravitate more towards a nonprofit, and that's what we're doing now. We are helping people in Africa. We have collaborators and partners in the States, in Nigeria, in Uganda as well. So we are doing this on a very large scale. And Rising Man Alliance is a global movement. And I'm glad to be
Okay.
here with you guys.
No problem. That is so great to know that you are already spread so wide and so far with this beautiful mission that you have for men in general, because you don't really see too many men intentionally together in that sense. Your slogan is one of my favorite things about it, because it's very intentional and it just already informs men what to be expecting with even just connecting with this nonprofit and connecting with you, and to know that you kind of have the two in one. You have the nonprofit with the coaching, which is also pretty much mentoring. Like that's a beautiful thing, because you can bring in more people that way. I remember I seen a movie on Netflix and it's called The Forge. And this little young 19-year-old, his mama was on his back about getting him a job, or he was going to have to get out her house. And she was a God fearing woman, so she prayed for him and everything. And he did the whole I don't believe in God spiel. And then he went to work at this gym. And the owner of the gym mentored him. And he had to be, in order for him, like, the mentorship was a requirement of him keeping that job. So he had to be there early, and he learned so many different things from this man before he was finally introduced to this forge of men. And it was like every man there had a mentor, like a
Mm,
mentoree. And while the founder of the gym is the one that started this thing, these men got together and they prayed together, they poured into each other, they helped each other, they organized things and went out into the community and helped each other with so many different things. And I really liked that movie. So whenever I seen DeMarcus being nominated for his award and he told me about you and what the nonprofit was, I instantly connected the two, because that's exactly what I see when I think of Rising Men Alliance and just how good it can be. And it was a mix of exactly how you said, men of all kind. This is not just, a black man or a white man kind of thing. This is just something that you have created for men. And I think that's the greatest part about it. So just to get straight into picking your brain,
yes.
just for a second, how do you personally define masculinity in the context of manhood?
All right. there's been this narrative of toxic masculinity, which doesn't exist. Anyone can be toxic. Masculinity is not toxic in itself. You could be a man, you could be toxic. You could be a woman, you could be toxic. I just wanted to kind of put that out there. Now, masculinity for me is about understanding who you are, because it started from the inside out and not from the outside in. Truly, and I mentioned before, I don't know if it was you or somebody else. I said we're all born a male, but we become a man when we become more mature and when we become self-aware. Now, masculinity is about walking in your purpose. Now, just because you are masculine, you also have the feminine energy, and in understanding and accepting that you have dual energy, because a real
Mhm.
masculine man understand and appreciate his feminine energy, because there will be a time where I'm going to have to be calling my feminine energy in order for me to be soft with you, because those are the attributes that don't come naturally with a man. So I have to call on the feminine side of me, right? So it's really understanding, and I call it a triple A, which is accepting, acknowledge, accepting, and taking action. So for me, I mean, masculinity could mean a whole host of things, but the core of being a masculine man, need to understand that who you are, your purpose, and what you are about to leave when you leave this earth. Because whether we like it or not, there's going to be an impact. Now the question is it going to be a positive impact or a negative impact? Masculinity is really understanding who you are and your masculine energy, but also able to operate in your feminine energy whenever it's called for, which is being a provider, a protector. And when I mean provider, protector, I don't mean just in a physical sense, but also in every other sense, right? Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, physically, intimacy wise, and being an emotionally intelligent person. So masculinity comes with a load of responsibility. And this is probably one of the reasons why most men are running away from from their masculinity, because it does come with where there is um, there's a lot of responsibility. You have the advantage of being a man, but also there's responsibility. We cannot want to take one without the other. It's a whole package. So for me, it's really about understanding. And I didn't understand masculinity until about 40 years old, about 5 years ago, when I started the healing process, when I started a healing journey, understanding and accepting the things as they are, but don't have to stay that way. And I have the ability and the and I have the ability and also an obligation as well to say I don't want to continue on that path. And for me, that's where really what masculinity is all about. And I'm still learning, because masculinity evolved with time, right?
Mhm.
As we get older, in your 30s, you understand what masculinity is. Oh, maybe not. In your 40s, you start to understand a little bit more. In your 50s, so it's really ever evolving. You know how you going to perceive masculinity for yourself, right? But overall, I believe masculinity is really about understanding who you are first. It started with you, within you first. What your triggers, starting your own healing, so on and so forth. So, I mean, I could go on and on and on, but for me, I would say this is what masculinity is all about.
I love that explanation and how you dove into exactly what you meant by provide. Because as you dove into it, I had this thing in my head where provide is the word for masculine energy and nurture is the word for feminine energy, but they are technically synonyms.
They are.
Because to nurture something, you provide it with the things that it needs to grow and to thrive. And I think that like you said, a lot of people have seen men take one without the other. So they grew to see men only provide in a financial and physical sense, and they've seen the women take on that side of the emotional side. But like you said, in masculinity, you really cannot have one without the other. But that's just a correlation that I just made, that to nurture something and to provide, while people look to the woman to nurture and the man to provide, these are synonyms that both men and women do,
And I
regardless
just want
of
to add one
what
more thing.
synthesis.
Women can provide. Women can provide a safe home, a healthy home. So women are also providers. So women, you know, do take on the role as well. And now the problem that we have, unfortunately, in 2025, is men are taking on too much feminine energy,
Yes,
and women are taking on too much masculine energy, which is why most women having a problem. Most men have a problem with women that are coming up with the masculine energy. Because as soon as I'm a man and I feel there's a masculine energy, what do? I'm in the defense. I'm like, now there's competition. How can I be a competition of the one that I need to protect? How can I be in a competition of the one that I need to provide for? But anytime that you bring that masculine energy, now all of a sudden now we are equal. Now we are equal in the eyes of God, but we are not equal in functioning. That's
yeah,
why I'm stronger. That's why I have more muscle mass, right? We are not equal when it comes to as a human being, we're all equal. But when it
yeah,
comes to functioning, when it comes to certain things, we're not. But when you pull out that energy, that masculine energy, now you all of a sudden you put yourself at the same level. So now what do? Now we're gonna go back and forth because we can't
yep,
have two king in the kingdom.
yeah,
There can be no
exactly,
two kings in the kingdom.
exactly. And I remember when I watched Mufasa. I watched the new Mufasa movie, with the real lions and stuff. And the white lion told, when he killed Scar's dad, he told him there can only be one king of the kingdom. There will only be one lion king.
That's right.
And that's exactly what you're talking about. So knowing that there is one king of every household, as long as there is a man, in that household. But what role do you feel that community plays in shaping a man's identity today?
Oh wow. Um, Now let me break down the word community. Community
Okay.
is common unity.
Okay. Okay.
All
I
right.
like that.
We cannot be a community if we do not share the same. If we do not have a common theme or common goal, it's not a community. It's just called ghetto or it's just called a neighborhood. But it is not a
Yeah.
community. A lot of places that we call communities are not communities. They don't even know the name of the person. Five houses down the block. So that's not a community. So um, the, community start community start with a home. It's funny, but it's not because it's sad. Because
Yeah.
because it used to take a village, literally a village. Now it's just everybody's for their own, after their own agenda. So for
Yeah.
me, it's really about what are you teaching within your household? Because even within your household, there's a community there. So the community that's out here is the community that's out there is a direct reflection of the community that's in here, right? So let's not start looking again. We have to come back and look from the inside out and not from the outside in. Don't ask what the country can do for us. Let's ask what we can do for the country, right? So
Hmm.
basically, we got to start within ourselves, within our four walls. What are we teaching our children? What are the children are watching? What type of relationship are we having as an adult that's going to shape the next generation? I don't want to start from the outside in. I want to start from the inside out. Again, is what are we providing our children with so that way when they do go out there, so they're not going to be confused about who they are. They're not going to be confused about certain things because it's not already been taught the right way. And it's got to be ingrained in them. It's got to be so rooted in them because the enemy is out there is looking. searching to kill, to destroy. So if we
Mhm.
not protect our children, how are we expect them to go out there and not being a victim to society, not being a victim to what's trending, not being a victim to what's going on in the world? So yes, community, the community and society, and a lot of time when we talk about society, with I feel like there's a detachment. So when I'm talking about society,
Yeah.
as if I'm not part of that society, but who form a society? People, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
we have a work to do collectively instead of sort of pointing fingers. Here's the problem. She's the problem. I tell everybody all the time, nobody's the problem. The problem is the problem.
I love that. And like you said, as far as pointing the finger and playing the blame game, that affects a lot of the mental health of men in today's society. And why do you think it is, particularly for black men though? Why do you think mental health awareness is so like critical? And what really are the barriers that divide black men and their mental health and the awareness of actually just wanting to seek help in that area?
Because it has been looked at as weak. It has been frowned upon, and it's not something that we were taught. We were taught to be tough and not to be grounded. There's a difference. Taught to be tough and stoic, but not grounded, which means that anytime that I feel disrespected, anytime that I feel some type of way, then I'm quick to react. I'm quick to want to, you know, meet force with force.
Mhm.
So because we have not been taught that, and we can no longer in 2025, we can no longer use that as an excuse because we know too much.
Uh-oh. Did you freeze up?
So we can no longer use that as an excuse. So what
Yeah.
is the barrier? The barrier is that until we individually taking the responsibility and accountability, we're always going to blame society. We're always going to blame somebody else. We're always going to blame our parents. Even though it wasn't our fault, but it is our responsibility. We can no longer play the victim. It doesn't fly anymore. It can't fly. Now,
Mhm.
it doesn't mean you have not been victimized. There's a difference. There are real victims out there, but you don't have to play victim. That means your mindset is still stuck in the what was done to you. And now instead of looking at things that was done to me, and I say, you know what? Maybe it was done for me. Maybe it was something for me now to learn from, to grow from, and to be able to move forward and not living in the past. Because the
Mhm.
past is only there for me to take a glance at to see how far I can, I've come. And that's the reason
Yeah.
why our windshield is a lot bigger than our rearview mirror. Rearview mirror is very small, so we can just take a quick pick of where we've been. But where we're going is a lot more important than where we've been. So I'll say to all men that are listening right now, we have to take this very seriously because when we look at this as a society, especially for black men, if we look at the prison population, 80% are men, and probably the majority of them are black men. If we look at now the violence, the domestic violence, and although violence have been done to men as well, but we don't have enough data to back it up. But we know violence have been done to men, absolutely.
Mhm.
But and also now we have the suicide rate. So all of those things pointing to a much bigger problem that we have, which is we have to take our mental health seriously. We can no longer afford to not take that very seriously. We can no longer afford to say, you know what, oh, it's okay, I'm good. No, you're not good. And you need to check yourself. It's just like if you were driving to drive your car. If the check engine light is on, are you gonna keep driving it until it falls under you? No, you're gonna get it checked out. Well, it's the same thing
Mhm.
as you. And how much more important it is for you to check yourself, to check to make sure that you're good. Don't wait till it's too
Yeah.
late.
Yeah. One message I definitely want to give to black men from a black woman who was raised by a black man, it is 100% okay to not be okay. And as a black woman in relationship with a black man, because black women, we kind of get that loud, mouthy, attitudey rep ourselves, but a lot of men really just do not know how to effectively back us down. Because if you wake up with an attitude and you're not feeling yourself today, a woman can wake up and the first thing she will say is, I got an attitude today. I'm not feeling it today. That is one of the first things that she will say, and she'll kind of say it really until she feels better, if that happens at all. And men just don't understand how much women would appreciate that.
Mm.
Because if you have an attitude, just let me know that you have an attitude so I can steer clear. The same way men wish to steer clear from women in their times of attitude or moodiness, men do the same things and we wish to steer clear. Because
Yeah, but
on the day that the man wakes up with an attitude, we wake up perfectly fine and we want to laugh and we want to play, and that's not what you want to do. So it's it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to communicate that you're not okay. And maybe with your partner is the first place that you can start to practice communicating that you're not okay or that you're not feeling it today.
absolutely. I would like to add, two things to what you just said. Now, first of all, you say about women waking up, moody and attitude and all that kind of stuff. It's okay because she's allowed to do that. It's up to me now to to exercise my emotional intelligence to understand that she is operating in her femininity and she has all the right. Now, I didn't say to be disrespectful. Now, there's a difference. I didn't
Yeah.
say to be disrespectful, but she could be moody because she's allowed to be moody. Attitude, you can, but it's just that comes with the territory. But again, attitude doesn't mean disrespectful. You can have a little
Yes.
bit of attitude, and it's for me to have my alarm on to understand. With me being a highly emotionally intelligent person, to understand there's a certain fight you can't win every fight, right?
Mhm.
And there are things that don't really matter at the end of the day. And you just got to let the woman be the woman. You go for a couple of hours, you come back, you know what I'm saying? You bring her some chocolate, you bring her some flowers, you bring her some lingerie, or you bring her a box, and then she's gonna open the box, and the box is
Exactly.
empty. Exactly. Now wear that.
Exactly.
The bills are paid, the kids are covered. Now handle what you need to handle, right?
Exactly.
That's what you need to do.
Exactly.
Now, rarely a man is gonna wake up with attitude. I'm gonna tell you what it looks like, but it is not attitude. The bills are due. The job we're getting a lot of problem with the job. Hours have been cut. If we're entrepreneurs, well, the money's not coming as much, and we're thinking about that, right? Our anniversary is coming up, and I told her that I was going to take her to Tahiti, and I told her, and the bills are coming up, and the car is down, and the kids got to go to school. This is what we are thinking. So it looks like attitude, but we are not here. We are zoned out. We are thinking ahead because we don't play checkers. We play chess. Okay, so we like 10 moves ahead of you. So when we wake up, it looks like it's attitude. What I would highly suggest that you say is, honey, what can I do to take some load off your shoulder? What can I do for you today? Because I see you wake up today, you're not yourself. You're not that cutie pie that when you wake up in the morning, kind of play things along. You're not, what I'm saying? You know, when you wake up in the morning, you give me a kiss, you look good, you're cute, you talk to me. But today is not so much. What's going on? What's in your mind? What can I do to kind of alleviate some of that load that's on your shoulder? And you say, you
I
know
love
what?
that.
It's okay today to take a day off. Listen, whatever is missing at the end of the month, I will figure it out. You want to take the day off today? And of course, he's gonna say no, but he's gonna know
Yeah.
that you care. Do you understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So we're rarely gonna wake up with attitude because that's not us. But we got a lot of on our mind, and it translate. It looks like attitude, but it's not.
Okay. And I love that breakdown and that observation. And to the men who have women that are just bluntly disrespectful, or they have their moments of just blunt disrespect, because I don't feel like there's any woman who can say that she's never disrespected a man, including me. So it's one of those things in those moments, um for to deal with it and kind of calm it down and de-escalate the situation. Hopefully, now depending on the woman, this will depend on the woman, and but it will show you the actual integrity and emotions of that woman, because I was raised by a man. So my anger, it can get there, but I still am a feminine being. So my masculine energy, while both have masculine energy, I don't have as much as you do.
That's what,
So
and you
mine will
shouldn't.
mine will back down once you assert your dominance. So if a woman is in the moment of being disrespectful, you know, calmly stop her and let her know, like remind her, like, hey, I love you and I understand that you're trying to communicate how you're feeling, but you're being disrespectful. That's not how we talk to each other. That's not how I want to talk to you. And that's not how I want or need you to talk to me. Because men operate so much off of respect. And it's not that women don't want to give men respect, but you have to put us in the position to see that you respect yourself. Because what she's gonna see is, hey, okay, he don't play that. I can't talk to him like that. And if I want to keep this man, I'm gonna have to watch my mouth. And she will begin to learn how to watch her mouth, in a sense, just. And I don't want to say, I don't mean watch her mouth in any type of
That
down
she's not allowed to
demeaning way,
speak.
but
Right, right,
yes, she
exactly.
will
I mean, it's
learn
not
how
like
to speak to you. And if you teach that woman that, and call her out right in those moments of her being in her disrespect, and you are disrespecting her, let her know, hey, hold on, that's not how you're going to speak to me. You can speak to me and you can voice how you feel and you can voice your opinion. But what you're saying now is interpreted to me as disrespect, and I don't allow that, because I'm not disrespecting you, and I'm not going to allow you to disrespect me. And if she back down and she calm down, you got you a good one. Now, if she keep going, it's going
baby,
to be
listen.
harder for that woman to stop. Just in our reality, it's going to be harder for that woman to stop being disrespectful to you, because some women are just disrespectful to men due to them not having their father. I have a stronger value for respect because I was raised by a man who respect was made as a core value for him as a man, me as a young lady growing into a woman, and then just as a person in general. So I have a better understanding of it, but I do see a difference in a woman who had a man who was strongly involved in her life, who had morals and principles and things to pour into me, and then women who had inconsistent fathers, women who had disrespectful fathers, disrespectful mothers, because that plays a part, because a lot of what I've recreated, I've seen from my mother. So all of those things play a part and should be taken into consideration. But for men, that is one good thing to try to back that woman down in that moment. But you have to call it out right then.
You
Don't
have
wait two
to.
months. Yeah, don't wait 2 months and be like, well, I emotionally, because what men will do, because I have experienced this issue, men will shut down from that moment forward. From the moment you disrespected their openness and their vulnerability, they'll shut down. And then
Well,
once you finally tell them what's wrong, it's like, oh, well, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago, you said this, and that hurt my feelings. And it's like, well, I could have been apologized for that. Like, I could have been trying to redeem myself from that, but I've been fighting to get you to even say that. So that's one thing for men that they definitely should take with them. Back that woman down, have disrespect as a non-negotiable for you, and make that a boundary that you make her stand on, because in her mind she's gonna know, I cannot speak to this man in this manner, and this is the man that I want to be with. And a man will see that, will change her whole tone. She will no longer be quick to disrespect anybody, because she has already unprogrammed herself to disrespect the person that she's in communication with every day.
I totally agree with you. Totally. And one other thing is, um, all for men, love is respect.
Yep.
You know, a lot of times you're gonna hear a woman say, "Well, he doesn't love me," because women go by what they hear, right? And men goes by how a woman speak to them. And for us, that's how we know that a woman loves us. Not because she cooks and she know how to throw it down or whatever, whatever, and then she's good and yeah, all that. We appreciate that, the cooking and the intimacy and all that kind of stuff. We love that. We appreciate that, but we appreciate that above all how we respect us. And it's an ego thing because now you know what I'm saying, when we're with our friends, now our friends is gonna have more respect for us based on the respect that our women show to us, right? So
Hmm.
and a man is gonna be like, you know what I'm saying, that his boy is gonna be like, man, you got a good woman. Why? Because this woman is being very respectful. Not only being respectful towards him, but also respectful, you know what I'm saying, towards herself as well. Know, you know
Hmm.
what I'm saying, know how, what to say and how to dress a certain way, you know what I'm saying, and how to carry yourself. So all of
Yeah.
that make a man very proud because the man's pride is not just in his status or what he does for work, but the second thing that will make a man very proud is his woman being very respectful towards him, especially around his boys.
Yeah, most definitely. So, in the sense of speaking of vulnerability, how can men reframe their mindset to understand that vulnerability is a strength rather than a weakness when it comes to manhood? And you touched on it a little bit earlier anyway, so I guess this is just like a different form
Approach,
of the same
right?
question,
Mm-hmm.
but vulnerability can mean so many different things, so it's just, how can men grow to see that as a strength rather than a weakness?
I would say this is where we fail as society, and when I mean society, myself included. Because as soon as a man started opening his mouth and say how he really feels, and all of a sudden, we as men are gonna start looking at him. I don't do that anymore. But most men are still doing that. As soon as a man open up, talking about how he feels and what he's struggling with, and so on and so forth, and now as all of a sudden he's being looked upon as, I mean, why you got to put yourself out there? Why you got to be so weak? You know what I'm saying? Why don't you have this a persona that you got it all together? Well, it looks like apparently you got it all together, but on the inside, everything is decimated. It's just breaking down. So at the beginning, of my coaching career, I used to tell men, be vulnerable, be vulnerable, because no men were being vulnerable. Now I'm teaching them to whom they should be vulnerable to, and where they should be vulnerable in terms of the space. Because a
Yeah.
lot of times, what's going to happen is if you are being vulnerable to the wrong person, you're going to be judged, and whatever it is that you are explaining or discussing to that man, they might put it out there and tell everybody else. Number one. Number two, if the space is not being it's not helping, it's not conducing into you being vulnerable, you might find yourself in a very, 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 very difficult situation, which what's going to happen is it's going to make that man even more closed up, because a lot of men try to be
Yeah.
vulnerable a time or two and realize that, hey, they're not being well received, and say, you know what, there we go, it's called confirmation bias. All of a sudden now you see, I told you I don't want to be vulnerable. Now this would happen. I don't ever want to be vulnerable again. But
Hmm.
but that's not you. That's because they were not ready to receive you. Now, what you got to use now going forward is to use discernment. When should I be vulnerable, and to whom should I be vulnerable with? And what's the space look like? Is this a space where I'm allowed to be vulnerable, right? But we got to teach men what vulnerability is, because vulnerability is not what you've been through. What you've been through is an experience. What you're going through is you being vulnerable, being open and honest.
Mm-hmm.
If you already gone through something and you got through it, it's no longer you being vulnerable. You've already got through that. It's whatever it is that you're currently dealing with right now that you don't necessarily want people to know. So,
Yeah.
in being vulnerable, you're being authentic. In being vulnerable, you're being yourself. And being vulnerable, it can open up a lot of doors for you. Now, the right doors are going to be open, but the wrong doors are going to be shut. But you know what? You can't win them all. So I'll
Yeah.
say definitely vulnerability is, I call it, the weapon, because that's
Yeah.
what's going to help you to get through life in a way that's not going to have an impact or a long-term effect on your mental health.
Yeah. Especially because a lot of today entrepreneurs, we don't need the degrees and the certificates, and we don't need those things anymore, because when you really transcend and evolve from the things that you have gone through, you're qualified through your experience.
That's correct.
But you have to be vulnerable enough to express and show your achievement, and that's what it has to be perceived as. When you go through something and you get through it, that's an achievement. You went to high school and you graduated and you got a diploma, that's an achievement. So that's how people have to look at healing from their traumas when it comes to being vulnerable. And a lot of, I feel like, the shutdown when it comes to men being vulnerable starts with the mother, because a man will base it off how receiving his mother is to his vulnerability, because there's a difference in the men who have nurturing and gentle mothers, or, and when I say gentle, they can be stern, but they're gentle with their feelings in a guiding type of sense. And I think that this is something that I picked up from my dad, but it's like, he when I was younger, he would watch me blow up in this big emotion, and he'd sit there and then he'd be like, okay, and now what are you gonna do to actually get past that? Because now you just have this big emotion, and as long as you got it out, that's fine. But what can you productively do now?
Mm,
And I think that that is what's missing in when it comes to the children, because we cannot, like K. Michelle said, you can't raise a man. Okay, the scars that that man has already been given are his to heal. So when we talk about the children, when we want to see change, that is who we have to pour it into. And I think that that is what men and women miss when it comes to nurturing young boys. While I understand you do want to teach that boy how to control his emotions, at least let him have the little bit of time that he does have to fully express those emotions. If he's 7 and he's blowing up, he can blow up at 7. He's at home. This is supposed to be his area to blow up if he needs to blow up. So let him blow up in that moment, and then teach him how to control himself in public. Correct him in the public settings and let him have his safe space. And then once he learns how to control it in public, he'll learn it's controlled. It will never be as big of an emotion as it used to be. So that's why, when men look at mothers and their son has failed and she runs over to him and is, oh, come here, let me kiss it, let me make it better. But right after that, go back and play. Go, we send them right back out, but it's a moment of stop and heal that hurt, and then go back out.
absolutely.
And I think that's a big part of that's a great way to change the perception of vulnerability, because it can be looked at as babying a child, or, coddling him or protecting him. But like you said, when you have the discernment, if the man is not receiving enough of the woman to understand that this is the discernment and the mission of her, to teach that man or that boy, how to heal himself, how to kiss your own wounds, how
Boom.
to self-soothe. And then once you know how to do that, you will go back into the setting that you need to be, and you'll be better. You'll know how to fight through that pain, because it'll still hurt. Just because I kissed this little boo boo, he's still gonna go out there and his knee is still gonna hurt. But he can fight through it because he already affirmed it in himself.
Absolutely, absolutely. And those wounds are gonna transfer to a womb which go into birth the man that you
Mhm.
would become.
Mhm.
So those wounds are very important. And I'm not saying
Yeah.
just put yourself out there, just get wounded. That's what I'm not what I'm saying. But being wounded is inevitable.
Yeah. 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 It really is. I think you froze.
Okay, perfect. What I was saying is, trauma or wounded are inevitable
Mhm.
because we're all gonna have gone through trauma. Even a baby, even before the baby even born, there's already
Yeah.
trauma because whatever the mother is going through, the baby's going to feel that. So
Yeah.
it's inevitable. You just got to be ready. You got to be equipped and ready. And we all are equipped. And here's the thing that I want to add to that. The day that we came to this world, we're all equipped. That's why we came out that when we came out. That's because we have been equipped. Now the problem is, most of us, we have tools that we've been equipped with. We don't know how to use those tools. We don't take the time to learn how to use them. So therefore, we throw them away and chasing other tools that were not made for us. Let me repeat that. Were born with the right tools. We're all equipped. But because we don't know how to use those tools, we think that they are no good. And because we are
Mhm.
not using them properly, we think that we don't have any use for them. So what we do, instead of going to learn how to use the tools that we have, we throw them away. Now we're gonna get someone else's tool, which were not made for us. And
Yeah.
now we're all jacked up. And now we're going back. So well, let me go back and get the tools that I had. Well, they're no longer. They've been damaged. Either they've been damaged, they non-existent. Now what do we do? Now we have to take
Exactly.
someone else's tools and we have to try to fit it to work for us. It's like me taking a car a piece of equipment from Toyota and try to make it fit in the Hyundai. It's not going to work. Now I may manipulate it, I may make it
Yeah.
work, but guess what? It's taking a lot of time, a lot of energy, and there's a guarantee that's going to work for a very long time. So I think we have to
Exactly.
start understanding that we don't need more tools. We just need to learn how to use the tools that we have, first of all, and second of all, use the right tool for the right job.
And I love that, because Sunday I went to church with my cousin. She had asked me to go a few times, but it was like an Easter program this Sunday, and I went with her. On the way back, she had a blowout. Her tire was about to get ready to blow out, and her brother called. Now, her car came with, this is a 2025 Trailblazer now. This car came with the tire, the rod, and the jack. But her not knowing what she was looking at, she told her brother when she called him to come, change the tire. She told him that she didn't have the tire iron. So he gets there with his, and guess what? His was too small. His didn't fit to get the lug nuts off. So we go back and we're looking, and he goes in the car, he looks, and he like, it's right here. This is what this is. And he was able to use hers to get the lug nuts off to then change the tire.
Right.
So that was literally exactly what you said, exactly what she said. She had everything she needed and did not know how to use them So because she did not know how to use them anyway, she didn't know what she was looking at. So you tell a person that you don't have them and they bring what they have, but that doesn't fit either because what's their tools are for their car.
My point exactly. Now imagine if this man did not have a discernment and go a little further and say, you know what, let me just double check. I'm not doubting what you're saying, but I want to see for myself. I want to see with my own two eyes. Because although what you might think you know become your truth, well, let me find out for myself.
Yep.
And that's what we should be doing in a relationship, regardless. And that's one of the biggest problem that we have in relationship is that we don't know what we have, and the other person is not taking the time to double check what we have. So they're going based on what you said, and when we do things based on what you said, so imagine if this guy did not look in her car, and all of a sudden he would have been frustrated. She would have been frustrated because he brought something that was not meant for the car, but he did what he was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened in all relationship. Anyway,
Literally.
I digress.
So, what initiatives and programs does Rising Men Alliance offer to support men in their mental health and encourage open conversations around this amongst men?
That's a great question. So what we do right now is, we are partners with psychologists, with therapists, and also with social workers. So what happened is, someone will contact us and either by email or by phone number, and we have a form. They're gonna fill it out. They tell us a little bit about themselves or whatnot, just to kind of understand exactly where to start and where to guide them, whatever that is. So once we've done that, it kind of give us a little bit of more clarity of how to help this person, right? So the service is free. It's really based on donations, people, because we want to make it accessible. We don't want men to use that as an excuse that they don't have money or whatnot, which most of us do have money, but we use it for whatever we want to, and not, But
Exactly.
that's just another conversation for another time. But regardless, so we make sure that we do a need analysis to see exactly where you are, try to understand, and then we take it from there. And now, very soon, hopefully by the end of this month, we're gonna start this. We're gonna restart again this group discussion that we had. We're gonna have that once a month, but our emails and our phone is open at any given time. Somebody will be able to answer whatever question that you may have, and for us to really guide you to the right person, making sure that you're getting the proper help that you need. But you got to want it, and the fact that they will contact us and send us email is an indication that they are ready to do the work. Now, whether they stick with it or not, we take it one day at a time, one session at a time, to make sure those men are being whole. They're starting the healing process, because once they do that, then that's when they start seeing the whole world open up to them and becoming the best version of themselves.
I like that. I love it. And I think those group discussions are going to be so great for Rising Men Alliance. I feel like that's going to be just great for the men that actually come and open themselves up enough to share and express what they're going through. And I know how I feel when I call my friends and I'm going through something and I'm in this big energy and I have these big emotions and I'm you know what I'm saying? Like it's like I'm covered in this calmness and just this affirmation of understanding and peace, and that really calms me down. And I think that if men could create that amongst each other,
Mm-hmm.
that would be a great step toward men healing and actually going in the right direction. So, Mr. President, and when you think of president, we have a president of the United States. Every country has a leader. The president is seen as the leader. So when we talk about leadership and how that can be poured into future generations, what qualities do you feel are essential for black male leadership today?
Well, black male leadership is a black male that is healed or in the process of healing. Black male leadership is about someone who has a mentor and can be a mentor, right? Because we have to be able to place ourselves in the middle. What do I mean by that? Every man should be in the middle, which means you have someone who's pouring into you and you have someone that you're pouring into.
Yeah.
Because what's been poured into you, in order for you to know that whether or not you assimilate, you learn, is to be able to give it back to somebody else. And you can't. A leader is not a leader if you only making followers. A
Yeah.
leader is a leader who can build other leaders. You don't need
Ah,
followers.
I
A
like
real leader
that.
is not someone who cares about followers. That's an influencer. That's someone
Yeah.
who's looking for fame, looking for recognition. A true leader don't look for followers. A true leader look to build other leaders, just like Apostle Paul. Apostle Paul was going from places to places and building leaders and building churches and go from places to places. So
Yeah.
a real leader should not be content. A real leader should not be happy having a bunch of followers. And that's what I
Yeah.
hate the social media thing. Talking about how many
Yeah.
followers you have. Who cares? Are their lives are being transformed? Are they being a different person? If the answer is no, then I don't care about those followers. I rather have two people that I have contributed to the lives that in their lives have been transformed than to have millions of followers and it's a bunch of you know. No, I don't need that, and I don't care about that. So for me, a real leader is someone who can place himself in the middle, to have someone who's pouring into him. We have to have someone who pouring into you. A real leader
Yeah.
gotta have a coach and you gotta have a mentor. And it's gotta have a sponsor. I call it the CMS trifecta. You gotta have a coach, you gotta have a mentor, you gotta have a sponsor. What do I mean by that? I know the time is running out. A coach
Oh,
is
you're
someone
fine.
that you see probably on a weekly basis or on a bi-weekly basis. It's someone who's going to a coach. He's going to guide you, to lead you play by play. A mentor is someone that you come out to when you have a big when you have a big project. You have something. You have a life turning point you go to every 3 months, every 6 months. Say, hey, listen, I'm about to make this move. I'm about to invest in this. I'm about to do this. A mentor is only there just to kind of course correct you. You've already have everything in place. It's just that person gonna say, just gonna tweak it for you. And that's a
Yeah.
mentor. Now a sponsor is someone who is at a place where you can't be there, but who can represent you. What do I mean by that? Someone who's going to be at the board meeting and the boardroom. Someone who can vouch for you because you're not quite qualified or can be in that room because you haven't, pay your dues. So you have a
Yeah.
sponsor. Someone going to say, you know what? I know this young lady, Chyna Smith. Well, guess what? I will highly recommend her. But you're not in the room. That's what the sponsor
Yeah.
is. So let's just say a man is not there yet with the sponsor, but you gotta have a coach and you gotta have a mentor. You cannot go through this life without having a coach and a mentor, because every coach need a coach and every mentor need a mentor. Period.
Hmm. Okay. Period. So, how do you feel that men can effectively mentor and uplift the next generation to break those cycles of trauma and really show and model to young men how to have and be resilient?
You have to be the man that you want to see, right? So if I'm looking at this young man, I gotta ask myself, if I were this young man, would I take advice from myself?
Hmm.
If I was this young man, would I take advice from myself? If the answer is no, then there you go. You have your answer. So we have to be able to start looking ourselves in the mirror and tell our truth, the real truth,
Yeah.
the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And so help you God. And that's why a
Yeah.
lot of us are avoiding the mirror. A lot
Yeah.
of us are avoiding looking inward. That's why we get ourselves so wrapped up, so busy doing a lot of things. I said busy, not being productive, because there's a difference. You can be busy, doesn't mean you're being productive. Because I can
Yeah.
run on a treadmill, doesn't mean I'm getting anywhere. But I'm running. So I'm into action. I'm busy,
Yeah.
but I'm not being productive. So you got to look at yourself in the mirror. Say, if I was a young man, what would I say to that 9-year-old boy inside of me, or that 15-year-old boy, or that 16-year-old boy inside of me? What would I have? What would I tell them?
Mm-hmm.
Would I be proud of myself to put myself in a position to be able to help this young man? If all of the answer is no, then we got to talk. Let's talk.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. This has been so wonderful. Like, in closing, what is a little piece of Will, the president of Rising Men Alliance? What is one more little piece of advice or takeaway from your experiences that you have encountered in life that you could pour into us today?
Um, I'll talk to the man first. I'll tell a man that you're gonna go through this life, um, and you're gonna be disappointed. You're going to be. It's inevitable. You're gonna be disappointed. But the thing that you got to understand is that once you know who you are, you know your core value, and you know you have morals and you have something you stand on. Can nobody tell you that you are not enough? Can nobody tell you that you cannot do something? Just because they can't do it doesn't mean you can't, because it's their own inability to get something done, and then they will look at you and say you can't do it because they can't do it. So who you surround yourself with? Look at the people around you. The 5 people that you spend the most time with. What are they teaching you? What are they pouring into you? And to a young lady, if you are looking to be in a relationship, always find out the type of relationship this man has with his mother and his father. And if he had a absent father, does he have a father figure? Because if he doesn't, and he doesn't have a coach, he doesn't have a mentor. Mm,
Yeah, that's for trouble.
And if you're already in a relationship, constantly check yourself. So in other words, make sure that you keep checking. So you don't want to wait till you're sick to go to the doctor to get a checkup.
Yeah.
Constantly in a relationship, do a self evaluation, do a self assessment when in that relationship. How's this relationship going? Are we still on the same page? Can we go, for relationship counseling? Doesn't mean the relationship is bad, but let's just do a checkup for prevention. Let's do a little prevention.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not in a relationship, ask yourself who you're going to be in a relationship with. If you're already in one, making sure that you keep, you do that prevention, because it's very important.
Yeah. I love that. I think that'll definitely help people really understand how to be and how to grow. And for women, because I'm a woman who I've always said since I've known that I wanted to speak, I will advocate for men because there are so many women already have so many people in their bandwagon. So and a lot of them are men, even if you think about Kevin Samuels and Derek Jackson, blah blah blah. There's a lot of people over there for the women. But I was raised by a man, so I have a different respect and a love for a man. So, and what I honestly do feel helped me as a women become the partner you want to have.
Mm.
So if you want a gentle and respectful man, be a gentle and respectful woman. If you
Hmm.
want a honest and faithful man, be a honest and a faithful woman. If you want a man to respect your boundaries, respect your own boundaries and be willing and have the capacity to understand and hear and respect his. And that goes both ways. So just men and women, be the partner you want to have and worry about being that person before you worry about seeing that person, because there will be nothing more detrimental to you as a person than for the right person to come along for you and you mess up your opportunity with that person because you were not ready to receive that that capacity of a blessing. You can't handle that good of a person or whatever the case may be. The worst thing for you to be would to be to misuse a blessing that was sent to you. So in closing, Enlightened Voices, this was a wonderful episode with President Will of Rising Men Alliance. He is a coach. So, men who are looking to start finding that CSM, or what did you say, CMS,
Right.
um men who are looking for that, I highly recommend you start here. One of the biggest reasons I wanted to, I know, do this episode for me was to show men that there are places and there are people that you can go to that are not women. A lot of men honestly just do not feel comfortable with women when it comes to being vulnerable. So I wanted to do this to show men that, there are other men who are prepared and equipped to help you evolve and help you grow and help you become the man that you want to be. And then you will surround yourself with more confidence and resilient men who can pour into you from their overflow because their cup is full. So
Absolutely.
I hope that this touches and reaches everyone that is meant to. Thank you so much, Will, for coming on here with me today. I won't take up any more of your time. I respect everything that you're doing right now with Rising Men Alliance. I hope that Enlightened Voices finds a way to partner with you in this because it is something that I, as a woman, see so much value in and see so many husbands. I see it creating so many powerful and helpful husbands and men of the communities that you reach. So thank you for being on here with me today, and you have the best that you can create.
I appreciate that. You do the same. Thank you very much, everybody.
All right.